Hey guys, how are you today? I hope everybody's having a great Saturday. I'm in my bedroom today. Just came on to say hi. I've been resting most of the day. I really didn't do a Friday vlog yesterday. I did a live stream in the morning. I did some singing and just to test out a surprise present that came in the mail. I've got a new sound card and a new microphone and arm and everything, and it worked out really nicely. So hopefully I'll be able to do live streams on other karaoke channels without major sound problems like I've been having. So yes, I colored my hair last week. I've showed it to you before. It's a little bit more red in here, as you can tell. I like it very, very much. So I am going to take, I almost said Vivi. I'm going to take Winnie to the vet on Monday. Well, it's the first time I've ever really taken her to the vet. Just because of that cough. Now it's a wet cough, and from the research I've been doing, it says, you need to be a little bit more concerned about a wet cough rather than a dry cough. So I'm going to take her on Monday. My cousin was going to take me, but now she's worried that if she's contagious, that is dangerous, which it's not. I've done extensive research, and it's very rare for a cat with a virus to transmit it to a human to transmit it to another cat. So I told her that. I am still looking for another ride, but we'll see if I can find somebody. I hope so. Either way, I'm going. It'd be very hard for me to walk 1.5 miles, but if worse comes to worse, I would do it for Winnie because I don't want her to be sick. If she needs medicine, I need to take care of her now. So I call taxi companies, okay? The animal hospital is 1.5 miles from me, but all the taxi companies are in Stowe. So because they'd have to come from Stowe to here, which is 7 miles, and then over there for 8 miles, they want $40 one way. I said, that's ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. So I'll get there. Believe me, I will get there. When there's a will, there's a way. I just, she acts fine otherwise. It's just when she gets the coughing fits, it's very worrisome because it's like that, she'll cough and you can hear all the fluid in there, and then she's like wheezing and all that. So it's like, no, she's got to go. It's just time. So that's what I'm gonna do on Monday. So I'm gonna rest up today and tomorrow on the off chance that I do have to try and walk there. I'll give myself an hour and a half to get there because I've got arthritis in my legs and sciatica in my back. But you do what you got to do. You would do the same thing for your children, and she's my child, my little furry child. So I'm gonna do that, and that's really about it. I've started coloring again, as you know. I've been showing that to you guys. We had the major snowstorm earlier in the week. Somebody came over and blew the snow the other day, and it's been over 35 the past couple of days, and I can see ground again. Hopefully, we won't get another major snowstorm and this silly snow will go away. That would be so nice. We are so ready for winter around here. That is for sure. Yes, I've gained weight since Christmas. I gained about 7 pounds from December till February. Actually, I'm not gonna lie, I gained about 12 pounds. And it's been a struggle trying to get it off. So, I was the same this week as I was last week. So that's a good sign. I haven't ordered any more ice cream or cookies or anything like that. But I'm on a very tight budget for food this month. So I might be eating a little bit more carbohydrates like spaghetti and stuff like that just because Food prices are just getting outrageous. So I'm just going to deal with it. And then hopefully, once summer comes, and we'll see. I don't intend to gain back all 40 pounds. I certainly don't intend to do that. I didn't intend to gain back 12 pounds, but it happens. I mean, us women, we always deal with this. We go up, we go down, and I think the longest I kept my weight off was maybe about a year. Uh, Back when I was working at the hospital, it was so easy because every lunch period I would go across the street to our little fitness center, and I would go on the bike, and I would go on the various equipment, and I was on the Weight Watchers diet, and I lost 60 pounds, and I looked so good. I was down to size 14. And it's easy when you have activity. You're walking from the parking lot to the hospital, which was a little ways, and then I did my exercise in the afternoons. And it's winter time. I think a lot of us put on weight during the winter time, and so once it gets warmer and it's not so slushy, I'm gonna definitely try to do a little bit of walking. It is hard with the sciatica, but the more you move, the easier it is for you to be in less pain. So that's going to be my goal for the spring, and I'm hoping it'll be sooner than later to get me in a little bit more shape before Easter weekend. Please, 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 I'm praying for that. Maybe I will just bite the bullet and just go a little bit further than the mailbox, like every day. I think I'm going to try to do that. And because it's not good. Once you start gaining weight, you get all your aches and pains back that you had before. A little bit harder to walk. And yeah, so that's that. Other than that, yeah, I'm excited about my new sound system. It sounds really good. If you watched my live from Friday morning, it sounds really, really good, and I'm very, very pleased. I have the best friends in the world, that's for sure. So, Winnie says hi. Like I say, she just has the cough. In between, she's fine. She's eating, she's drinking, she's using her litter box. She even started playing with one of the bags yesterday from Instacart. She's laying down a lot, but that's her anyway. She's always been a very sedentary cat. She doesn't really play a whole lot, so that's probably not good for her either, but we'll see what the vet says on Monday. And right behind me, that beautiful painting that you see, my husband Dave did that. That was called Rosa Mountain, and he was a painter. We love to watch Bob Ross all the time, and he'd always been very artistic anyway. But watching Bob Ross, he would, make paintings, and I loved his paintings. We used to have so many of them, but as we moved from house to house, so many of them got left behind. And but I always kept this one. I've had this one for a long time. I think I've had this one for like over, gosh, probably 20 years, I want to say. I've always made sure to bring that with me no matter where I went. So, yeah. And there's another one of his, but you can't see it right now. There's that one back there. That's a night version. Not quite as pretty as Rose Mountain, but that's a night version of Mountains. So, yeah, those are my two favorites that I've always kept. Dave was so artistic, and he also made a lot of dioramas. He loved to get, kits that you get in the toy stores. Like he would love to make airplanes. He would make planes. He would make uh, war scenes, like the jeeps and the all kinds of things that you do. Like out in the field and stuff, and he would get little soldiers and he would paint them. He was so talented in so many ways, very, very artistic. and he was the biggest supporter of my singing. He was a great guy, and it's getting hard now because April 6th was the day that I brought him to the hospital, and he was in the hospitals, several hospitals, until June 19th. Um, I had had him in the ER a week before. I brought him in when he got so sick, and they told him he had the flu. And even though I told them that he had liver cancer, they didn't do anything for him. They gave him no medicine, no nothing. So a week later, he was sleeping a lot. He wasn't hardly eating anything, and I knew he was really sick. So I brought him in on April 6th, and his oxygen level was like 72. So they put him on oxygen right away, and it nothing was helping. So they had to finally put him in an induced coma, and he was like that for 35 days. No, up to 40 days. They took him off the medicine and he never came out of it. And when he finally came out of it, it was a miracle because we had lost him almost 3 times in between that time. And so April was a tough month for me. And April's tough for me every year because it was very traumatic to go through all of that. So he was in ICU for 30 days in the Sevierville Hospital, and then they transferred him over to another hospital in Fort Sanders in Knoxville. And very interesting, if you have been covering the Von McRae story at all, the hospital that he was in, I don't know if he's still there, the Select Hospital, that's the same one that Dave went to in Fort Sanders. And I didn't like that hospital. They were not very attentive to me. Um, this whole time, I was the executor, you know, of Dave's power of attorney and all this. And during the whole 90 days that he was, in these different facilities, they never came to me about anything. It was like I didn't even exist. It was terrible. I mean, the guy from Sevierville Hospital decided on his own he's transferring him over to this other hospital. Didn't even talk to me about it ahead of time. And so I come in and he says, okay, we're transferring him over to this other hospital today. It had been 30 days. So he had been in the ICU for 30 days and he still hadn't come out of it. His platelets were so low, his everything was so out of kilter in his body, and yet they still transferred him. It must have been a Medicare issue. I don't know. He was still very, very sick. I think on the way to hospital, he coded. And so he was in that other hospital for 30 days at this select hospital. And they just weren't very attentive to him. After 30 days there, the support person, social services person, told me that, well, if he's not sick, he needs to be transferred to another facility. He had a fever 102 degrees that day. To me, that's sick. Don't you think that is sick? They transfer her to anyway to another facility in Maryville, which was like 20 miles away, which was like 40 miles away from my home in Sevierville. And it was just horrible. He was only there for 5 days, okay? He got transferred there. He coded again in the ambulance. Then he got there. Nobody in that facility knew how to, what do you call it? How to suction out fluid from his chest, okay? He had double pneumonia and he was battling with that for a long time. But by the time he was transferred, he was awake. He finally woke up. He was actually breathing on room air. He was doing great. Then he got transferred over to this place. And even though he was okay, he would have to be suctioned every once in a while because his oxygen level would go down. And these nurses over there knew nothing about it. I'm like, how can they transfer him to a facility where there really isn't medical care? They called it a rehab facility, but it's really more of a nursing facility and a nursing home type facility. Okay. They would take his blood sugar. He had diabetes, and his blood sugar would be so low, and they would just poo-poo everything that everything, oh, his blood level's low. This is low, that's is low. And I guess I have the feeling that without even talking to me, they were just comfort taking care of him. Okay. I was led to believe by the doctors that he was better. And then the nursing supervisor at that facility said, I see nothing wrong with him. I don't see why he cannot walk out of here. So I had high hopes that Dave was getting better. He was going to come home. And 3 days later, he'd only been in that facility for a couple of days. And I was at the point I had to do some work because we really had no money. I worked at Dollywood and I took off a lot of time to be with him. And I was so positive that everything was going to go okay. So I went to work one day, and my Dollywood days were like 12 hours. I'd be there at 7 in the morning and leave at 7 at night. And then by the time I got to the car and everything was like 9 o'clock. So this one night, I think it was Sunday night, I got there around midnight, I think, and he wasn't responding to me. His eyes were closed and one of his arms was twitching. And I knew something was wrong. I said to myself, he's having a seizure. These nurses paid no attention to me about him. I was sitting next to him. I had my feet up on the bed because my ankles were this swollen. Um, from being on my feet all day long, I would always get a lot of edema in my ankles, and they were more worried about me than they were about him. And by this point, I was so exhausted, I actually went out into the lobby area and I laid down on a couch and I fell asleep. So the day nurses come in on Monday, okay, and they were a lot more attentive. They woke me up and they said, there's something wrong with your husband. He's not responding to us. And I told them, I said, yeah, I told the nurses last night that he was not responding to me and something was wrong. So they called for an ambulance to get him to the hospital since he was not responding. And I knew damn well he was seizing. I knew it. I've been a medical secretary my entire life. I know about these things. So they took him to the hospital. Apparently, he coded twice on the way to the hospital. When they got to the hospital, they did a brain scan and they found out that he had a bleed in his brain. A couple of bleeds, actually. He'd been falling at home, so he probably, had gotten some small bleeds. They said that he had a lot of small bleeds in his brain, but then he also had a major one. So he had a stroke in the rehab facility. I can't help but wonder if we'd gotten to the hospital the night before, could he have maybe been saved? I don't know. And so they transferred him over to the Maryville Hospital. And then the Maryville Hospital transferred him over to UT Medical Center. And oh my God, that was the most horrible experience I've ever had. He was in a room that had absolutely no chairs. I wound up sitting on the floor because I was with him 24/7. I wasn't going to leave him. It was awful. I couldn't even get a chair in that room. And then they finally gave me one of those folding metal chairs, which was so uncomfortable. And it was just the most horrible experience. I was there trying to, I was playing him music. I was just in denial at that point. Dave had been in the hospital 4 times before this with kidney problems, and he always came out. He was always expected to die, but he always came out. So, I still had that, he's strong, he'll come out of this. But at that point, it was too late. So, not just the bad treatment of me, but then ignoring me and not telling me what's going on. You know, a brain guy finally came in a couple days later and said, this is very unfortunate that he's had a stroke. He said happens to a lot of people, but he didn't say that he was going to die. All right. He just said it was very unfortunate. Then 2 days later in the morning, I had actually gone all the way back to Sevierville, okay, because I had a dog and I had cats. I always put puppy pads down for Missy, and she always used those. But I went back home and I took a shower and I put on my favorite pink shirt and I came back to the hospital. This doctor comes in with a team of students, and he bluntly says to me, "Well, he's not breathing on his own. We're taking him off the machines." No bedside manner, just very blunt, very direct, you know, and it was terrible, the way he treated me. And one of the students came over to me and she said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Yeah." That's why I have been mad. I have been mad for 10 years over this because I was treated like nobody, even though I was his power of attorney. Nobody ever talked to me about any plans. They just did things, and and Dave just didn't get good medical care in East Tennessee. He did not. The doctors in Sevierville were horrible, just horrible. He had been on morphine for 5 years for his back pain. Once we got to East Tennessee, psh, they wouldn't give it to him. Didn't matter that he was on it for 5 years, right? Because they had such an opioid problem in East Tennessee, they were refusing to give anybody these medications. So we had to use a medication that was for breakthrough pain, which wasn't even that good. Was it tramadol or something like that? I can't remember. And then one day he lost his prescription, and the doctor had said, if you ever, lose your prescription or something like that, I'll never refill it for you again. And she didn't. The man was treated like shit the minute we got there, you know. And we were getting away from Murfreesboro because the crime was so bad. There had been a murder at Old Charlie's right down the street from us. The manager had been killed. Um, then when we lived in Hermitage, the McDonald's had gotten robbed and people were killed there, and the crime was horrible. So that's when we moved to Pigeon Forge to get away from it all. But little did we know how bad it would be for Dave, and it was the death of him. It really was. And so, yeah, the whole 3 years we were there, it was such a battle to get him taken care of. Such a battle. And yeah, so they took him off the machines. He tried to breathe on his own for 15 minutes, and then that was it. And I have been so angry about it. I'll probably never get over the anger because to me, he didn't have to die. If they hadn't sent him home because he had the flu that week and did nothing for him, I really don't think he would have gotten as bad as he did. All his organs shut down. It was just horrible. Just horrible. I loved East Tennessee. I'm an entertainment person. I worked at Dollywood, and we got free tickets for all the shows on the strip there in Pigeon Forge, and that was the funnest part about it. But dealing with doctors all that time was just horrible. And then, of course, I didn't have money for rent after he passed away. I couldn't get help. I got $100 from one of the agencies, and I allowed my landlord to take advantage of me and bamboozle me and convince me to move out in a week so that he wouldn't have to go to court and, evict me and all that kind of stuff. And as a result, I left so much behind. But I made sure to get all of my years of photo albums, my records, my Barbies. It all went into my car, and I moved to Murfreesboro on a promise from one of my friends that she had a place for me to stay. When I got there, found out she does not have a place for me to stay. This guy didn't want anybody in his house. So that first night, I slept in Walmart parking lot with my animals. Yeah. And then one of my friends took me in, but she wouldn't let me take my animals. So this other friend kept my animals, started working at I worked at State Farm for a while. And then after that temporary position was laid off, I was out of work for quite a while. I did work at Amazon for a short while, but that was too hard on my body, and I wasn't going fast enough for them. So I don't remember if I quit. I think I quit from Amazon, and I was without a job for a while, and it was just a very, very rough year from 2013 to 2014. The only good thing that happened in 2014 is that I went to see Keith Urban in Alabama, which was only 2 hours away, and that's when I won my meet and greet. And actually, Dave died on June 19th, and I lived in Gatlinburg at the time. And my mom had sent me some money, for rent and all that, which I should have used to pay rent for the next couple of months. But I had a couple of friends who were homeless, and I was helping them out way too much, with hotels and all that. So I blew that money like an idiot. I should have secured my future and I didn't. And, a lot of that was my fault. But, it was just a horrible time. And my husband was done so wrong. So anyway, that's the story. Went back to Nashville and just had a really, really hard time. And to be quite honest, I tried to commit suicide. I was taken to a mental facility. I was there for 7 days. I went to go live with a lady. I wound up having to quit AAA because I was being abused by my supervisor. And the lady said, if you don't get a job in 2 weeks, I want you out. And I tried it again. I just took some pills. It didn't work. And that's when I realized that I do have a family somewhere. I had found my one cousin several years before on Facebook, but we never really kept in touch. And then this point, I just felt like I had nobody. Nobody cared if I was alive. And I just didn't want to be here anymore. But then after that failed attempt, I decided, well, dang it, I do have family. Okay, let me find them again. Let me try to get my life back together. These were the people that I loved the most during my childhood. They were the ones that loved me unconditionally. So I found my cousins, came up here in May for a trip. I used my tax refund. And then I came back up here in June with Vivi. So yeah. So, just thinking about April, it's always a hard month for me. And I'm glad that I'll be away that weekend. It'll get my mind off of it. And yeah. So that's my weekly vlog and my story about my husband. And here I am today. Um, Lost Vivi almost 3 years ago. And now Winnie's sick. And I just that's why I'm getting her to the vet, because I can't bear to lose another cat. I really don't think she's sick enough to die. At least I hope not. The worst thing would be a heart failure problem with her, but I think she would have a lot more symptoms if she was having heart failure. Uh, so please just pray for her, and we'll see what the vet says on Monday. And I'll talk to you guys later. Take care. Bye.